we'll go and we'll say all the legalese part.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Latana Jackson, and it's 9:14 a.m., and I call this board meeting of the Texas Board of Respiratory Care to order.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Jackson. As you said, today is February 3rd, 2022 at 9:14 a.m. And the Texas Respiratory Care has posted a supplemental notice under Texas Government Code 551.0411 and 551.045. Due to adverse weather conditions, namely a winter storm, the convening of a quorum is difficult or impossible, and therefore board members may attend by video conference for the purposes of a quorum, and we do have 100% virtual attendance today. Due to adverse weather conditions resulting in widespread travel advisories, public safety announcements to avoid unnecessary travel, and closures of Austin area school districts, the Texas Medical Board offices located at 333 Guadalupe, Tower 2, Suite 225, Austin, Texas 78701 will be physically closed. Therefore, the Texas Board of Respiratory Care will proceed with its meeting by video conference only, with the ability for the public to join the meeting by telephone or video. Members of the public are encouraged to attend. And the urgent public necessity that requires the meeting of the board to go forward is to provide protection of the public and patient safety through the board's formal consideration and approval of remedial plans and disciplinary orders concerning respiratory care practitioners who have been determined to have violated the Respiratory Care Practitioners Act and or board rules. In addition, there are a number of applicants awaiting approval of their certificate applications, allowing them to practice in the state. And again, those are the reasons of why we're going forward with a meeting versus rescheduling to a future date. And with that, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Ms. Jackson.
Present.
Okay. Dr. Marsh.
Present.
Ms. Patrick. Mr. Brown.
Present.
Dr. Chappelle.
Present.
Ms.
Present.
Mr. Pellizzari.
Present.
Dr. Curry. And Mrs. Sanders.
Present.
All right. Great. Okay. Count 7 out of 9 that are present. We have a quorum, and we may proceed. I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Jackson, for agenda number 2. I think you're still on mute, ma'am.
Agenda item number 2, board member reports.
Okay, and again, this is just the opportunity for the board to bring forward any additional information that comes up from the last board meeting, anything you'd like your fellow board members to know, or anything you would like to relay to staff or even the public. There's nothing required at this point. It's just a your opportunity. Okay, not hearing any, I guess we will move on to item agenda number 3, executive director report. Good morning, everybody. Nice to see everybody virtually again, but at least we're all trying to stay safe and warm with the weather conditions that are out there. Because of COVID-19, we are still, even if we had Ms. Jackson present today physically in the building, the majority of the board members would continue to participate remotely, as is the majority of our staff, and also in the day-to-day operations. Majority of our staff are continuing to work from home. We do have a contingent that do come in every day, and we thank them. That their job duties require them to be physically in the office, do certain tasks. We are doing our best to try to keep staff members safe. And for the foreseeable future, it looks like that's how we're going to continue to operate. Our new building update is we are going to be moving into the new George H.W. Bush building at some point this year. We do not have a final date yet, a move-in date. It will probably be sometime by the end of September, after the last medical board meeting of the fiscal year. It's kind of when we're targeting so we can wrap things up and not have to move, interfere with any of the end of year reports or business that the board has to attend to. And finally, for a budget update, I will let our new CFO go ahead and give our budget update if Joey is on here.
Good morning, sir. Yes, I'm on. Good morning, everybody. So for our budget update through mid-January, we have fully executed 30% of our budget, and we are projecting to execute approximately 85% of our budget through the end of August 31st for fiscal year 2022. I'm currently in the process of coordinating with our department managers to make sure that finance has captured any other projections or expected expenditures to see if we can get that 85% closer to 100%, so we don't lose any budgeted money from the legislators this year. Pending any other questions, I will hand it back to you, Brent.
Okay, thank you, Joey. I appreciate it. And that will conclude the executive director report.
Thank you. The next item would be agenda number 4, our medical director report. Dr. Brett?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you also virtually. Fortunately, we do not have a lot of standard of care complaints for the respiratory care, but we do need a few additional experts. So if you can suggest anyone, please send me or Laura an email. They need to be an active Texas license. They need to be actively practicing, and I can follow up with them and send a solicitation email. But anybody who you think would do a good job reviewing cases for the board, I would certainly welcome any recommendations. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5, consideration and possible actions regarding pending litigation. Mr. Freshaw?
Yes, good morning. Hi, Ms. Jackson. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good. Board members, there, as my usual report is, thank you for not getting us sued. The medical board keeps us occupied with plenty of cases. But in all seriousness, we really just have a lot of routine stuff right now, some appeals of medical board orders. We do have a couple of federal cases that are ongoing, where people are dissatisfied with either their discipline or the reports we've made to the National Practitioner Data Bank, but those are really going nowhere at this point. They're just kind of sitting in the court. Our attorney generals have filed motions to dismiss most of those. We are waiting a decision from the Texas Supreme Court, as I've been reporting to you for probably the last 3 or 4 board meetings, on a physician who has challenged a National Practitioner Data Bank report on him, saying we had a mandatory duty to file a void report. Our position is no, we filed the correct report, which is called a revision to action. It was submitted to the Supreme Court and argued probably, I believe it was in September. I would anticipate we'll get a decision on that probably in the next 2 to 4 months. But again, we'll let you know when we know. But that's the litigation report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6, Texas Physicians Health Program.
Good morning. I've already let some people know this is Dr. Katie McQueen. My internet connection is unstable, so Mr. Rui Bernardo, our program director, is on backup in case you lose me. Fortunately, we just have 2 cases to bring to you today. Case number 1 is PHP number 18-0261. Briefly, a 52-year-old respiratory care practitioner originally referred due to legal issues with alcohol, has been with us since 2019, has had a slip before, had a positive urine drug screen on August 3rd of 2021, followed by a positive PET tests, admitted to consumption, enrolled in an IOP, an intensive outpatient program, where the participant remains. Counselor reports participant is doing well. Governing board recommendation is to return to Texas PHP.
Do I need to do anything with that one?
Yes, there would need to be a motion and vote on whether or not to leave with PHP or return to PHP.
I move we leave with the PHP. Aye.
I second.
It's been moved, it's been motioned and second that we leave with the PHP. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passed.
Thanks,
Excellent.
everyone. Just a brief reminder, if you wouldn't mind saying your name with your motion and second, that helps staff. It makes it a lot easier for us to capture it for the minutes. Also, just a quick reminder, make sure your video camera's on while you're making a motion, speaking, or taking a vote. Thanks so much.
Thank you. The second and last case is PHP number 210809. This is a 32-year-old respiratory care therapist referred to Texas PHP due to multiple alcohol related arrests, the most recent one in 2018, which involved an attempted suicide. Interviewed with Texas PHP and entered into a 1-year agreement, had a dilute test followed by a test that was positive for THC. Adamantly denied ingestion of marijuana, did report ingestion of some nutritional supplements that may have contained cannabinoids. Was sent for an evaluation. There is in your case some back and forth. Participant was somewhat resentful about the process, but did undergo an evaluation. The results of the evaluation are there. Diagnoses: alcohol use disorder mild, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder moderate. Recommendation was that the participant continue in monitoring, that they undergo some counseling. Again, participant was disappointed at the result, but our protocol essentially, when there's a diagnosis of a use disorder, the agreement was increased to 3 years, and the agreement then included the need to attend counseling sessions as requested by the evaluator. I will point out that the December reports are not yet in. We don't consider, they are late, but not considered substantially non-compliant until they're late for 2 reporting periods in a row. This was presented to the board and their recommendation was to return to the Texas PHP.
Dr. Chappell, I move he stay at PHP.
Greg Marshall, second.
It's been motioned and second that the applicant stays with PHP. All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed say nay. Motion carries.
thank you so much. That concludes our cases for today. Any questions for the Texas PHP?
Thank you, Dr. McQueen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 7, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding applicants appearing concerning eligibility.
Yes, good morning. We have 3 licensure applicants that will be appearing today. I do see all 3 as currently attending the meeting. So our first applicant, number 2483. This applicant is appealing an executive director determination. They were originally scheduled to appear at the September 2021 RCP board meeting, but was unable to attend and has been deferred to today's meeting. They are a relicensure applicant that was previously licensed by DISH with a license that expired back in December of 2013. They have not actively practiced as a respiratory care practitioner since October of 2009. They did submit a detailed statement stating that they were using the time to work on starting their family. They did not provide documentation of CEUs completed within the last 2 years. So because the applicant had not actively practiced since 2009, which was approximately 12 years from the date of the application, it was recommended that the applicant would need to comply with the following: pass the voluntary MBRC CRT exam, complete 36 hours of CEUs, with 24 hours of them being live in person, 12 hours of them being online, and 2 of the 36 hours must be in ethics, and practice for 6 months under a supervised temporary permit with submission of work log and evaluation at the end of the 6 months. All of those requirements were to be completed in 18 months. This recommendation was based on the active practice remedy matrix that was created by the Practice Authorization Committee, and the applicant is appealing that recommendation, citing the possibility to work while trying to go through nursing school, which was why I was trying to redo my license, was to apply it towards some of the classes. I would like to note that, again, she was scheduled to appear at the September 2021 meeting, and in preparation of that meeting, board staff did receive a late update from the MBRC in the form of a certification verification letter. That letter indicated that the applicant obtained the CRT credential in November of 1998 and the RRT credential in December of 1999. When the original recommendation as cited previously was made, board staff was not aware of the RRT credential, which is why the recommendation was for passage of the voluntary MBR CRT exam. So that should be corrected to passage of the MBRC RRT exam. If you have any questions, I can answer that now. And if not, applicant 2483 is here to answer any questions from the board members.
Applicant 2483, would you like to make a statement?
Yes, I would. Actually, this has all been kind of crazy. I'm trying to get into nursing school. And so I'm not actually, even with my licensure, I'm not going to be actively practicing, period, because I have, as she was stating, that we were doing our family, in which I have a 32-year-old now, I have a 4-year-old. And so it basically was just, you have to take at the college out here, you have to take the nurse's aid program out here. And so my thing is just not, there's no way that I can actively work, period, with her, because she's never been in daycare. We have no in-laws or anything else. And that was just, we just didn't want to put her in daycare or anything. And so that's why we even waited. But all things aside, I was going through an egg retrieval process and all this, and which the last time was actually 2012. So that is actually a mistake on there. I had left one of them off, not purposely, but I worked for a home health agency. As I stated, I'm not wanting to actively practice as a therapist. It is strictly to get into nursing. So, like I said, the CEUs, yes, I need to do those. I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And if I were going to be actively practicing respiratory, then I mean, I need the education, not necessarily the education, but just the re-up on everything that's gone on in respiratory, just to get my skills back to where they should be. But even doing the 6 months or whatever, there's just no way. I mean, so that was why I was appealing the decision, just to see, because like I say, if I were going to be actively practicing respiratory, then I mean, I can see that, but just applying it towards, not even applying it towards, but just having that to get into the nursing program.
Applicant 2483. So just for clarity, you're stating that you are here seeking your RCP so that you can use that credit to apply to nursing school, but there is an option for you to actually go through a nurse aid program instead, which would get you into the nursing program?
The nurse's aid is what is one of the things the NTCC at Mount Pleasant actually requires.
Mhm.
And with my licensure, that actually substitutes for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so any board members, does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. I'm trying to make sure I understand this. You need a license, a RCP license, just to get into the program? Is that what you're saying?
I don't necessarily have to have my respiratory license, but if not, then you have to complete their nurses aid program in order to get in. But the
But-
more,
I'm sorry, applicant 2483, but for the sake of the license, you're not going to be practicing at all, right?
no.
Okay.
Applicant 2483, why wouldn't your degree go towards credit versus your license? I don't think a license would have anything to do with academia versus the credits that you've already taken for that to be eligible for that respiratory license. And I would echo the same question is why can't you submit your transcripts from respiratory therapy as proof that you've accomplished the academic equivalent of the nursing program?
Because it's still not the same as the clinical that I actually did, but based on my transcript, then it doesn't have. I'm trying to think how to actually put it. I mean, because of it being the what's the word I'm looking for? The clinical really is what they're looking for versus just your transcript stating that you're taking classes.
Then what about the passing of your NBRC credentials?
As far as working in the hospitals or
Well, having a license, ma'am, doesn't mean that you've actually worked in the hospital. It just means you've had a license. Passing the NBRC credential, it at least established the fact that you have the foundational knowledge to be a respiratory therapist. So I don't understand why you need a license versus, again, what you've proven academically to be a respiratory therapist.
and that, I mean, that's just part of it. I mean, I don't want to just throw away my licensure, based on the fact that I attended school and actually took the NBRC exam. passing it the first time and passing it the second time on with my, whenever you have to take your registry, obviously you have to take the clinical part of it also.
Applicant 2483, how long is the nurse's aid program that you would have to take?
It is 8 weeks.
Okay, 8 weeks compared to a much longer requirement to get your RCP plus board exams again. That pathway is a lot more difficult than you're just satisfying the requirement for nurse's aid. Have you considered that?
I have considered that, but I mean, to throw away 6 years also that was put towards it, I mean, I also don't want to do. I'm just not going to be actively practicing because, I mean, that's just, there's not enough time to do in the day for me to do that.
Applicant 2483, I think there's a little bit of clarity we need to make sure that you understand. Your CRT and your RRT exams that you have already passed have nothing to do with your RCP. So you're saying you're throwing away your CRT and RRT? Those you have obtained. What we're discussing is your RCP licensure. So you're stating that you do not want to actively practice respiratory, but by granting you an RCP license, you are in fact in a position to walk into a hospital and actively practice as a respiratory therapist. But your CRT and your RRT credentials that you have earned are yours. So you're not throwing those away, but you're asking us to grant you a licensure that allows you tomorrow to go apply to a medical facility and to practice respiratory care, which you have not done actively for 12 years. So Dr. Marshall is asking you or suggesting the 8-week nurse's aid program versus requesting an RCP licensure from us.
So that, and that's a misunderstanding on my part, because what I had thought, and like I said, I've been out of the scope of all this and everything else. I mean, because the last time that I was actually in it was when I was having to get my licensure through the Texas Department of Health. And so what you're saying to me though is basically, I mean, even since there's a time constraint as far as licensure, if that was the route that I chose to do, which is not, but if it was, is this what I would go back and redo, or does this eliminate my chances of going back and getting my RCP, or how does that work?
So what we're advising that if you are going to request an updated RCP because you have been out of active practice for 12 years, then you would have to follow the matrix that the legal team presented to you prior, which would be your CEUs, your 6 months supervised working, and the passing of your MBRC, CRT, or RRT. But you've already passed that piece, but you are still required to do those last 2 parts if you are requesting an RCP licensure from us, even if you are not going to practice. You must still complete those 2 parts because you've been out of active practice for over 12 years.
So on the 6 months that's required for I guess the clinical part, basically. Do you work as a student? How does that even work? I mean,
that would be up to you with regards to finding a hospital that will hire you or bring you on as a student or whatever they would title it. That's not governed by us, the board. We're just telling you, you would have to get with the hospital and be supervised. They may title it as an RT assistant. They may title it different things, but you would have to have 6 months of supervised vision under the supervision of another respiratory therapist who would have to sign forms saying that they are supervising you. What they title it, that's going to be based on that facility.
And so now it's not based on CRT or RRT I mean, it's just RCP now, or?
No, ma'am. There are two different things. You have your licensure, you have your certification. Your certification is what you have, a registered respiratory therapist through the MBRC. Your licensure is what you're here for us with, which is your RCP. That's two totally different things. But you need a RCP license to practice respiratory care in the state of Texas.
Okay.
Applicant 2483, I think what we're saying is that the quickest path to your goal, which is nursing school, the quickest path to your goal is to enroll in the nurse's aid program, which is 8 weeks, and you would be done. The requirements to reinstate your RCP, it's a long journey, and you stated that you don't plan to even practice respiratory care. So if nursing is your goal, your fastest solution to get into a nursing program would be through the nursing aid training program.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall.
Thank you.
Does this need a motion?
Yes.
So
I move.
to clarify,
Go ahead,
since
Grace.
this is, thank you,
Thanks.
Sarah. To clarify, since this is an appeal, the board members would have to either deny the appeal and then make the motion of what they recommend, which could be the original recommendation that is outlined in the summary, or you could grant the appeal, which would then allow the applicant to be licensed. If you do choose to deny the appeal, again, I want to bring to the board members' attention that the original recommendation was to pass the voluntary MBRC CRT exam because board staff was not aware that the applicant had the RRT exam. So if the original recommendation that is outlined on page 2 of the summary is going to be what's recommended by the board, then there would need to be that correction that it would be past the voluntary MBRC RRT exam and then the other criteria as outlined on page 2 of that summary. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I move we deny the appeal and
Dr. Chappelle, hold on. Dr.
Ms.
Chappelle.
Jackson?
I just want to make sure. So she does have an active RRT, correct?
Yeah, her MBRC, CRT, and RRT certifications don't have expiration dates because they were issued in the late 90s. So those, when we verify, we see a valid through indefinite on the online verification. So using the matrix that was created by the Practice Authorization Committee, it is the applicant would have to do whichever credential is the higher of the two, which in her case would be the pass the voluntary MBRC RRT exam, because now we have that verification. She does have the RRT credential. Does that answer your question, Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
I move we deny the appeal and uphold the original decision with the modification reflecting the change in her RRT, that she would take the MBRC RRT voluntary.
I second that motion. Sonia Sanderson.
It's been motioned and second that we deny the appeal and keep the original recommendations. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay. The motion carries.
And applicant 2483, you will be receiving an email from board staff, which will have a link to a separate Teams meeting for you to join so that you can ask board staff questions about the motion that you just heard and ask any questions or clarification that you need moving forward with your licensure applicant upon hearing this motion. So you can leave this meeting and join that one once you get that email with the link, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackson, are you ready for The next applicant, okay. We have applicant number 2506. Applicant 2506 has been referred to appear before the board today because they have not actively practiced since June of 2001. The applicant did submit a statement indicating that they have been utilizing their skills on a daily basis while evaluating and assessing patients from host hospitals for admission to LT, AC, and IR hospitals. And as a clinical liaison and rehab liaison, they have constantly been using their learned skills as an RT to benefit the patient in the appropriate and post-acute care facility placements where needed to be admitted. They also submitted a copy of their clinical liaison job description for y'all to review and indicated a very detailed practice plans if they are issued a Texas license that is in your summary, starting at page 2 into the top of page 3. They also submitted a CE report from CE Brokers for continuing education obtained from March of 2002 to May of 2021. So from June of 2019 to present, which is 2 years from the date of the filed application, the report appears to document 21 credits earned, but it's not clear upon review of the transcript by board staff how many of those hours were obtained specifically live in person, how many were obtained online. And there was also some uncertainty regarding the 2 hours in ethics requirement, but we did indicate 2 courses that may meet that requirement that we wanted to bring to the board's attention if that is part of a motion that is made. If you don't have any questions, then applicant 2, oh, yes, Ms. Jackson?
So for clarity, between March of 2002 to 2021, we have a total of 21 credits only over a 19-year period?
No, the report documented 21 credits from June 2019 to present. There was obviously more than that, but for licensing purposes, we look at the 2 years preceding the date of the application. So I wanted to specifically draw that to the board members' attention. But the entire transcript report is in his packet for y'all to review. Any other questions? Okay, applicant 2506. The board members can either begin asking you questions, or if you have something opening you'd like to say, you can say that at this time.
Well, good morning from icy, snowy McKinney, Texas. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. Basically, I know it says I'm not active after 2001. That's hospital-based. From 2001 to 2013, I was actually respiratory therapist in home health care. I know it's different. However, we still had patients on contact, so I may not have been doing any intubations or blood gases or NT suctioning or anything like that. However, I did screen patients for sleep apnea, did overnight pulse oximetry, apnea link, also nebulizer therapy, getting patients started on that flutter valve incentive spirometry. I did work with ventilator patients in the home, changing out equipment, of course, setting it up, changing out equipment. Home sleep studies, like I said, auto CPAP, CPAP, IPAP, IPAP, ST, AVAPs, and so I wanted to just make sure that you guys knew that from 2001 to 2013, I still had contact. It just wasn't hospital-based, home health-based, and I've been working full-time ever since. So everything's been a full-time job, and I've also been licensed in other states. It was fluent. I always had my CEUs every 2 years that I needed to provide in Georgia, Arizona, Alabama, most recently Florida, and then now Texas. So I've had license in each and every one of those states continuously and always kept up with my CEUs. And that's that.
Applicant 2506. So you're saying that you currently have active license in these other states, but you did not keep up your Texas license while you kept up the license in other states?
I did. My license in Florida expired in May when we moved here. And then since then, I have not been licensed in any state, but I had licenses in previous states. And of course, you have to have proper CEU requirements to do that. So I've obtained those licenses in other states. They're just not active. So because I moved and relocated. So I faxed that information in earlier in the week as well. All that information from my past licenses in other states.
Miss Grace, do we have the documentation for him working in the home care environment from 2001 to 2013?
Let me check on that one moment, please.
I have a question. Applicant 2506. Based on the information, it only shows you working in the area of sales after 2001, but I don't see any information about you actually practicing RCP. Can you clarify that for us?
Sure. On the resume that I sent in, that's attached in the packet, or should be, I think it's page 1. It shows respiratory therapy sales, basically from 2001 all the way to 2013. 2013 is when I was offered a clinical liaison position, which was I was the first respiratory therapist to take that position at Select in Panama City. It was kind of interesting. They usually have RNs doing that, or physical therapists. So it's kind of nice working on pulmonary patients. But looking at page 1, at the main header, it does show from 93 hospital practice to 2001 hospital practice. From 2001, from there, they had me listed as manager sales, but it was respiratory therapy, the manager DME company. So I was responsible for all oxygen setups, CPAP, BiPAP, medication delivery, because it was pharmacy based. So the position department that's incorrect. After that, it shows respiratory therapy, RCP, respiratory therapy until 2013.
So, Ms. Jackson, to answer your question, for licensing requirements, we require Form L evaluations for the last 5 years preceding the date of the application. So because that ended in 2013, that was not a requested Form L work history evaluation, because it was 8 years prior to when the applicant applied in June of 2021. I did put in the late update folder the Form L evaluations we did get for his last 5 years of experience that was reported on the application. That's March 2016 to May 2017 at Select Specialty Hospital, and then May 2017 to May 2021 at Encompass Health. So because of the job titles as clinical liaison and then also as the rehab liaison, it wasn't clear about the actual practice as an RCP, and so that's why we obtained the job description and why he is here before you today. Does that answer your question, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, ma'am. And then another reason I wanted to be able to make sure that Mr. Eric had some clarification as we're asking these questions. So that was very good information for us all.
Yes, work history evaluations are not required earlier than 5 years from date of application.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr. Eric, do you understand that piece that she's talking about? Why we're not looking at that time period, or I guess more so why I'm questioning what you did between 2001 and 2013. You're on mute, sir. You're on mute. Mr. Eric, you're on mute.
Sorry, President, I didn't hit it hard enough. Yes, I totally understand why, and hopefully it's a little clearer now that you guys do have that, and that's why I sent in my resume, because it's lengthy and diverse. So as I've tried to push the boundaries as much as I could, so in what I'm doing, so I totally understand.
Board members, you guys have any additional questions?
I do. Applicant 2506, can you clarify for me, since 2013 to present, so 2013 to 2022, what have you been doing? Have you continued to work in home care, or have you been a case manager or clinical liaison? What has been your practice?
Okay, so end of 2013, I accepted a position as a clinical liaison with Select Specialty Hospital, and they were actually thinking of getting a respiratory therapist on staff. And I jumped at that chance because it's something new and something new to learn and work with patients that I had already worked in an LTAC hospital years prior before I got into home health. So I thought it would be a really nice transition working with pulmonary patients. Most of them are trach patients, and it's a different subset as what you're dealing in high-level acute care in the hospital. So from that point, I came on as a respiratory therapist. And of course, you are evaluating these for coming out of the acute care hospital. You're looking at these patients typically in ICU because they're complex medical. You have wound care, long-term IV antibiotics. A lot of these patients have come off higher levels of ventilation, such as pressure control, what have you, and they've been weaned down to pressure support and PEEP and lower FiO2. And now you're looking at a really good patient that can withstand some good inpatient rehab because of all the myopathy that they've suffered with and being in ICU for so long. So at that point, for 3 years, I believe, I worked as a clinical liaison with Select, and I had an opportunity while evaluating patients in an acute care hospital in Panama City, in Compass, which is mainly rehab, short-term rehab, about 2 weeks. They were looking for a respiratory therapist. So I was working with the liaison with them on the floor, and we were looking at what are the best patients. Is this patient good for long-term acute care or rehab? And I learned a lot about the rehab side, more so than I thought I would, on physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech. And there's crossover with speech, of course, with swallow studies and Pasteur valve and training and things like that. So it's kind of interesting. And they're looking for a respiratory therapist on the rehab side. I said, I know nothing about it, but let's go. And from that point on, and that was about 2017, I became a rehab liaison and now look at patients from a different perspective instead of long-term care to, roughly about 2 weeks of some inpatient rehab, working with high flow patients, CPAP, BiPAP, things of that nature. Does that help?
Yes, it does. So you assess patients and recommend placement, but you're not actually giving therapy to the patients. Are you working with a respiratory therapist that's employed there?
Correct. Yeah, we have meetings with case management, with the hospitalist, pulmonary, wound care. The physiatrist is usually rounding at the hospital. So it's a team approach, working with different physicians, maybe nephrology as well. And I do meet with respiratory therapy on suggestions and what the patient can tolerate, as far as ambulatory SATs. You always have these conversations of, hey, are you doing a breathing treatment before you're doing rehab? What's the recovery? Are they desatting upon ambulation? Respiratory works with PT as well in these facilities. So yeah, meeting with respiratory is on a daily basis.
And can you tell me when your RCP license expired?
In the state of Florida, it expired this past May.
Okay, what about Texas?
Texas, I have not gotten one. This is the longest I've been without getting an RCP license in any state. So,
Okay.
and
how long have you been in Texas?
We moved here last June, early June, and then I started the process for the Texas RCP license at the end of June, early July. And it's just been work in progress.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I did serve as a clinical liaison in a rehabilitation hospital, and you have no bedside clinical hands-on that you're doing with the patient. You just became a very good assessment personnel. So if you've done that for the last 4 or 5 years, that makes you a great clinical assessor, but it's not necessarily going to make you competent to be a clinical practitioner at the bedside. And that's my comment.
I've got a question. It looks like you've had a license in South Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and now you want one in Texas. You voluntarily let all those previous licenses go, or is there any, if we were to check, would we find out that you were being investigated or there were complaints and you just decided to move on?
No, absolutely not. Just basically relocation and moving and personal preference. And Texas has most of my family here, so I'm done. Done with moving. So had a nice adventure in life. I was lucky for a while to have that ability to move to other states and practice and enjoy life. And Florida, we're done with that. A hurricane got us out of town, so no more of that. When a Category 5 rolls through and takes half the town away, you reassess things. And then we've got family calling out here saying, "Hey, move here. You know, you might see some hail." So I'll take that as opposed to a hurricane.
Ms. Jackson, can you clarify then what we're deciding, or can we just have someone summarize what we need to be doing here?
So I can do that. So because the applicant hasn't clinically practiced from what board staff could tell in pretty much right at the 20-year point, per the active practice matrix that was created by the board, it's an automatic committee referral. So essentially all of the committee members will be looking at the information provided in the summary and then what you ask of applicant and get clarification, and then we'll have to make the determination, the motion for how this licensure applicant will be resolved with us. So there's no criteria for the over the 20 plus years out of practice. That's up for the board members to come up with that after the applicant's appearance and getting the information that you require.
Right. And again, yeah, that's the inquiry, and this is Scott jumping in. Yeah, I mean, I think as Ms. Underborn said, it's an automatic referral to you, and I think, and Mr. Palazzari and Mr. Marshall and also all of the board members, that's the thing. You all have the authority to ask questions, and you can determine if you think what he's been doing, would that be sufficient for competency to say he doesn't need to go to the matrix? If you don't think it's sufficient, then as Ms. Underborn just said, you can look at the matrix to provide you guidance as to what you've done with other applicants. But again, the initial inquiry is, do you feel, and I think that's what the applicant is saying, is look at what I've been doing. Is this basically sufficient to substitute for, I guess, based on what you said, Mr. Palazzari, kind of actual hands-on stuff, right? I mean, that's really your threshold, and then you go to the next step. Do you grant, do you look at matrix, et cetera? Is there a remediation you think is appropriate if you don't want to issue the full license at this point based on your inquiry?
Does everyone have access to that active practice matrix? It's in Laserfish. Just outside the folders. Let's see here. You go to the folder 7, agenda item number 7, applicants appearing concerning eligibility. It should be listed there for you as a Word document, active practice matrix.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So board members, is there a recommendation?
Can I throw something else at you?
Yes, sir.
This just happened 3 weeks ago. I have connections still, obviously, in the home healthcare industry from the history that I have. And I was actually, someone had reached out to me for a local startup at a DME company that is looking into establishing they do everything else as far as nutritional and wound care, that nature. and they want to get into the respiratory. They talked to me and saw my background, because I had been at the backbone of a couple of DME companies, starting a sleep program and establishing a DME back in South Carolina. And one of their requirements was I have to have a state RCP license to do so. And I can't produce that at this point. So what's happening and what I've seen, it seems like for career paths, starting in the hospital, going into LTAC, going into health, into liaisoning, as been trying to be as well-rounded as I could. In a way, it's kind of hurt me right now, because what happens is, for instance, right now at Encompass, there's a salary grade change. Licensed practitioner opposed to marketer. So in Florida, I'm licensed, so I get to do my pre-screen, sign it, and have a sit down face-to-face with the medical director, discuss this patient or any other specialists that are involved. So that's easy. I can sign it and go. Here, my job, I'm a data collector. So it's kind of a, all these years I've been able to sign and have that discussion face to face. Now I have to send my information to a licensed clinician in our department, and then they send it to the medical director, and then I have to follow back around and text the medical director and say, let's talk. And you look at our department, it's 21 people. 4 of those people are licensed. Everyone else is basically marketing and have learned their medical background through peer training. Whereas I was counted on as one of the signers, one of the clinical signers. At this point, I'm not. So there is a salary adjustment. You're raising kids, like you want to make your money. So if I have my, it widens my ability range to provide, and my ability to help get these patients moved as well. Just one step lesson in the process of getting these patients seen and getting them moved out of the hospital. So I just wanted to add that to it for thought.
Can you guys hear me? Because I'm moved to a different computer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So applicant 2506, you actually opened up a very good concern. By granting you this RCP, we do understand that, yes, it's going to give you an opportunity to have a broader role and also give you an opportunity to increase your salary. But then it also gives you an opportunity to walk into a hospital with no clinical experience or hands-on experience for over 20 years and apply for an RCP job. So when you said that, that's what we're actually having to look at, is the fact that once you have this license, yes, we understand that it gives you more responsibility as a liaison, but it also opens up the opportunity for you to now practice in a hospital when there's a great demand for RTs, but you haven't had that bedside experience for the last 20 years. So that's really what we're trying to decide, what's in the best interest of our patients, considering you haven't practiced for 20 years. Make sense?
It does make sense. Well, I do want to make sure, I mean, I know you're looking at hospital-based, correct? Because of course with home health care, there is still patient contact and hands-on, but again, I'm not drawing an AGT, and we discussed that earlier, and doing any of that, doing chest physiotherapy or anything. But as you mentioned that, I thought about it here too, and I've talked with my family about it, and there is such a need for RCPs in the hospital. I looked at that, and there's great opportunity. And I said, picking up a PRN job, getting back in there slowly, one at a time. I know things can. It's like riding a bike. To me, you'll still be able to ride. And I look at when I graduated. You take your ClinSims, you take your registry, you take your CRT, you pass them, you do well, you come out of school, you're ready to take on the world, but you really learn things how it really is within a year. And that's where you really build your clinical skills. Me, on the flip side, being out of practice for a while, I feel like I'm 80% there. So it's basically you kind of go back and you've got to dust off some cobwebs and go from there. So that's my thought process. And I am considering PRN because that's great. Looking at some of these ICU patients again, instead of from a liaison standpoint, you're getting that different picture again. And since I've been in contact with respiratory therapists, that's really not an issue. And in fact, over at Encompass, they assigned me only because of my pulmonary background. So I think it'll help.
So if we were to look at 2013 being your last, because that's when you finished up with the home care. So 2013, we could actually say that's when you finished your active practice. That would be fair to say, right? So you've still been out of practice for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that in my opinion would be where we really need to look at the 8-year matrix. Anyone else have any feedback?
I agree. I think there is a pathway, and we can provide the pathway once we agree exactly where he fits. But you know, especially in light of applicant 2506 talking about PRN, and you know that speaks to what you said, Ms. Jackson, about our concerns for we have to look at the patient's side of things. I think looking at the 5 to 10 year, isn't that what we said? The 5 to 10 year matrix requests would be something to consider.
Applicant 2506, you mentioned earlier that there are 4 people on your team currently that have a license?
Yes, yeah.
You're on mute.
Sorry, I keep forgetting that. They are, I believe 3 are RNs and 1 is a physical therapist.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm the only RT. I don't know how I keep on getting these situations with Encompass or Selected only RT, but it's kind of been laid out for me that way. But yeah, I think there is an upper management or someone that can also clinical sign, but it's not a regular. We have a team that we're linked to. We have to send our pre-screens to get signed.
So are you currently with Encompass or Select?
Pardon?
Are you currently with Encompass or Select?
Encompass. I have dabbled on the home healthcare side as well.
Okay. Dr. Marshall, do you want to make the recommendation for the 5 to 10 years matrix?
I would like to recommend the 5 to 10 year active practice RCP requirement to be fulfilled. That includes passing voluntarily MBRC, the CRT, RRT exam, 24 CEUs, 12 live, 12 online, 6 months supervised temporary permit with submission of work log and evaluation at the end of 6 months, all to be completed within 12 months.
And just to clarify, because the applicant has the RRT credential that was issued in June of 1999, it is valid indefinitely. In this case, to apply the active practice matrix, it would be pass the voluntary MBRC RRT exam.
Correct.
Because that has not been completed within the last 2 years from date of the application. And then the rest of the matrix as it is written, the 24 hours of CEUs, 12 live in person, 12 online. And then we also notify the applicant that 2 of those hours have to be in ethics as well. The 6 month supervised temporary permit with the logs and evaluation at the end, all to be completed within 12 months.
Does that also include the sex trafficking CEU, 1 hour?
No, for the active practice remedy, it is strictly RCP related specific CEs. It's not any state requirements that are required as part of license renewal.
Gotcha.
One point of clarification, Grace,
Yes.
the live component, does that mean live but remote methods of attending is okay? Because I
Yes.
think with obviously the ongoing pandemic, we
Yes.
want to be more
Yeah,
flexible
that's
about
that's
that.
why we kind of label it live / in person, but we know that to mean now due to the change of the world in the past 2 years that can be a remote attendance as well, just not one of the online ones.
Thanks.
This is Candy Poole. I second that motion.
It's been motioned and second that applicant 2506 complete the active practice for 5 to 10 years, which would be passing the RRT. 24 CEUs, 12 need to be live and in person, 12 online, 6-month supervised temporary permit with submission of a work log and evaluation at the end of the 6 months, all to be completed within 12 months. All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay. Right. Motion carries.
And applicant 2506, board staff will be sending you an email with a Teams link for you to leave this meeting and attend that one to ask questions from board staff specifically about the motion that you just heard and get any clarification that you'll need so that you can move forward with your licensure applicant, okay?
Okay, and will the matrix information be emailed to me?
Yes, your licensure analyst that you've been corresponding with will send you a copy of the meeting minutes so that you'll know how it's outlined, but you'll also get our specific letters that are sent to applicants who are given this active practice remedy matrix. So it'll be outlined there what the criteria for the supervisor needs to be, when you need to submit the appropriate forms and documents, and to know that you cannot start until you've received that issued temporary permit from your licensure analyst. But all that would be in the documentation that you would get from your licensure analyst.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Derek.
Ms. Jackson, are you ready for our final licensure applicant?
I am.
Okay, thank you. This is applicant number 2500. This has a referral by the executive director. This is a relicensure applicant that previously held an RCP license in Texas that expired in November of 2015. The applicant has not actively practiced as a respiratory care practitioner since 1999. She did provide a statement regarding her respiratory care work history. She indicated that her career has taken her beyond the scope of direct patient care. This direction expanded her knowledge to the post-acute world of healthcare, and she works very closely with all disciplines of the acute care forum. And she also indicated that the service lines that she's associated with are considered inpatient treatment and handles very complex cases. She did also provide to board staff that she plans on studying for the RRT exam, and she also submitted a completion certificate for 12 hours of CRCE live lecture series dated this past August of 2021. So due to the time out of active practice, this was automatic referral to appear before the board today so that you could look at the information, ask questions from the applicant, and make your recommendation regarding her licensure applicant. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Applicant 2500, if you have a statement, you can say it at that time, but if not, then the board members will just begin asking you questions about your application, okay?
Applicant 2500, okay, you're muted. Okay, there we go.
I'm ready for the questions, if you're ready.
So you haven't practiced, Shad Polazari, hi. So applicant 2500, you haven't practiced respiratory care since 2015, is that correct?
Well, to just piggyback off of what 25006 said, that's pretty much what has happened in my career as well. But I have worked in the home health field with as a respiratory therapist probably until about 2003, in regards to setting up the ventilators. We had the Texas children's contract, so we did have some pretty complex cases that we worked for. I did work beyond scope with Lincare as their primary RT for their non-invasive ventilatory support program, and was active in that for a while.
So applicant 2500,
Thank
why are you desiring to get your RCP license at this time?
I as well need to have my active RCP license to continue the position I currently have within Compass. And also, I had finished in 2015 my bachelor's degree so that I could move forward in getting my RRT license. And my son became very ill in 2017 and passed away. So it limited my time at that time to continue my registry.
Applicant 2500, for clarification, based on the information that we received, you haven't actually practiced RCP since 99, is that correct?
Not inside of a hospital, no, sir.
So where were you practicing RCP after 99?
Say that one more time.
Where did you practice RCP after 99?
It was just with a home health agency setting up the ventilators and checking on them in the home health setting, just for a short period of time, a couple of years.
And when did that cease?
Probably around 2002, I guess, beginning of 2002.
So you're saying you haven't practiced RCP since 2002?
Yes, sir. Actively inside, as eloquent, I can't say it as eloquently as 2506 did, but it's the same guidelines. I was held accountable for the patients that were in the ICU metrics, talking to the pulmonary physicians, making sure that they get into the facilities. I worked in LTAC, long-term acute care, home health, and currently in rehab. So I really went outside the scope of respiratory therapy, and I know that that's hurt me now. I didn't realize it as I was doing it because there was opportunities that I saw and I took them, and I wish that I would have kept a PRN status at a hospital, which I did not, but I wished I would have, but I did not feel the awareness that I had to be inside of a hospital to keep my RCP license, because I was very active in the community with the respiratory NBRC, and a lot of colleagues had the same career path that I took. So it was just never in my thought process that I had to keep a status inside of a hospital to keep my RCP. And I was licensed in Oklahoma as well before we moved here.
So your skill set was more being utilized in the form of information and evaluation, more so than just hands-on practicing, correct?
After 2002, that is correct. And I kept my license and my my CEUs complete until 2015. So, or 2017, actually. That's when my license expired.
Applicant 2500, looking at the supplemental information that you submitted, you said you worked at Elk City Hospital from 89 to 91, and I would assume that was around the time that you were going to school. And then Mercy Health Center in Oklahoma City from 91 to 94. So
Yes.
would you say that 94 is the last time that you placed hands on patients as a respiratory care practitioner?
94 to 95, because I stayed PRN at Baptist Hospital as
Okay.
well. So that
All right.
time frame, yes.
Thank you.
very complex hospitals.
Yes. Board members, does anyone have a recommendation? So it looks like applicant 2500 has been out of practice for over 27 years. Her license now is needed for her to continue her current career path. So if we look at the active practice matrix for 10 to 20 years, could we please review that? And see if that would be a good pathway for the applicant?
I would agree that probably the 10 to 20 year pathway would probably be the best option here. I know she has a wide range of knowledge, but I'm in the IT field, and I know technology changes really fast, and things have changed, I'm sure, in the RCP field in that span of time. And so I would feel safer if a person working on me was to go through the pathway of doing those CEUs and being supervised voluntarily for 6 months. That would make me feel safer for her to come and actually have to practice on me. So I definitely agree with going that pathway.
Ms. Grace, was her last MBRC, is it CRT or RRT?
In this case, for the applicant, it is a CRT. The verification letter from the MBRC only indicates the CRT credential issued in July of 1992, valid through indefinite.
Thank you.
An applicant.
And my plan is to move forward with the RRT.
Exactly. Applicant 2500, earning your RRT will just open up tremendous doors for you. And I know that this is a journey, but it will certainly, with your past experiences and the top credential along with the RCP license, will really serve you well.
I believe so.
May I have a motion?
I would like to make the motion that the 10 to 20 year matrix pathway would be followed for passing voluntarily MBRC RRT exam, 36 CEUs, 24 live and 12 online, 6-month supervised temporary permit with submission of work logs and evaluation at the ends of 6 months, all to be completed within 18 months.
Samuel Brown, I second that motion.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
But even though Dr. Marshall made the recommendation for RRT, and even though the applicant is saying that she will do RRT, is her minimum requirement the CRT based on our matrix? Since that's what
Based on the, yes, you are correct. Based on the matrix, because she only has a CRT credential, then that would be, per the matrix, what we would require minimum. Now, you can put in the motion that you would accept either the CRT or the RRT, and then she would have to submit whichever one she chooses to pass to her licensure analyst to complete this criteria.
That's a great point. Can I amend my motion?
If your second does.
You've got a second on it, Mr. Marshall. So, Mr. Brown, if you'll withdraw your second, then Mr. Marshall, you can re-urge a new motion and just withdraw. So have Mr. Brown withdraw, you withdraw, and then propose a new motion, I think would be the cleanest way to do it, if that's acceptable to you, Mr. Brown, and to you, Mr. Marshall.
Sure.
Samuel Brown, I withdraw my second motion.
Greg Marshall, I withdraw my motion. I'd like to make a new motion that the matrix for the 10 to 20 years pathway be followed that includes passing voluntarily MBRC, either CRT or RRT exam, 36 CEUs, 24 live in person, 12 online, 6-month supervised temporary permit with submission of work log and evaluation at the end of 6 months, all to be completed within 18 months.
I second that motion.
It's been motioned and second that applicant 2500 will complete the RCP active practice for 10 to 20 years, which includes passing her voluntary MBRC, CRT, or RRT, the completion of 36 CEUs, 24 live in person, 12 online, 6-month supervised temporary permit with submission of a work log and evaluation at the end of 6 months, all to be completed within 18 months. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. Thank you. The motion carries.
And applicant 2500, you will receive an email with a separate Teams link that you can leave this meeting and join that one so that you can speak with board staff regarding the motion that you just heard, what to anticipate from your licensure analyst, and answer any other questions that you may have regarding your licensure applicant. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And that was the last licensure applicant for agenda item number 7.
Thank you, Ms. Grace. Agenda item number 8, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding proposed orders offered by the executive director.
There are none.
Agenda item number 9, review, discuss, and possible actions regarding selected files and cases. Files have been assigned to the Discipline and Ethics Committee members.
I can cover this agenda item if you like, board. This is the agenda item that's assigned to the Discipline and Ethics subcommittee of the board. Obviously, any of you are able to review what's in these files and ask your questions, but individual files have been assigned to individual D&E members, and you should all have sign-off sheets. That would be for Dr. Chappell, Mr. Marshall, Mr. Pellizzari, Ms. Sanderson. You should have sign-off sheets that were emailed to you to your board email. We're still kind of functioning in the old world, so you still actually have to print these out unless you've got a way to figure it out and physically mark the forms and then scan them and email them back to us, or you can fax them back to us if you want. We are working on getting a more user-friendly template for that. It takes a little while, but we are working on a more user-friendly template. But those of you that have cases assigned, I think we have Ms. Pellizzari's sign-off sheets back. If everybody else could please get those returned to us as soon as possible if you had any assigned. The other items on this for agenda item number 9, tab A, are just reports. You did not have any warning letters to report to you this meeting. There is a report on the criminal cases that are reviewed. These are reviewed as part of our pre-investigation process, and you can kind of just see a report. Obviously, if there are any on there that have to be referred for investigation, those will come back to you as either dismissals or ISCs at some point in the future. But this is just a report to kind of give you an idea of what we're reviewing. For agenda item 9B are the follow-up files. You don't have any. You also, and then for agenda item 9C, these are the ones that you would get the sign-off sheets for. And the motion you would make would be to move to approve as indicated on the individual sign-off sheets. Did I state that correctly, Ms. Tuttle?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and so if anybody has questions, we can address them. If we don't, there would be a motion to approve as indicated on the individual sign-off sheets for agenda item 9C. And we can give everybody a couple minutes to kind of.
And I cannot find my assignment on this. Can you tell me where down the rabbit hole this is?
Sure. Are you able to follow along in the Laserfish filing system?
Yes, I
So if
am.
you're under tab 9 and then you click on folder C under your name here, you can see you've got A through little e. And then there's nothing under A, B, or C. And then the one that's assigned to you is under the D folder.
Okay.
And then you should also be able to access the sign-off sheets, which are just below folder D. And you also have a sign-off sheet there that you can, that will correspond to that you can.
Okay, just a moment. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Mr. Palazzoli, so you're saying you've already received from one person, Mr. Shad, and we still need Chapel, Marshall, and Sanderson?
Yes, ma'am.
Sarah, I sent a screenshot of my blue sheet to you. Did you get it? And if you give me a fax number, I'll fax it right now.
I did not get a screenshot, but let me look into this.
Yeah, let me check what fax number will work for, and I'll give that to you.
Okay.
Oh, geez.
So are we okay with, so rather than giving a motion to approve agenda item number 9, we'll give the committee members time to review their files, and then I can come back to that at the end and do a motion. Is that okay? I don't see Mr.
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think you can just at this point, Ms. Jackson, defer this agenda item and then just go through the rest of your agenda, and then we can circle back to it.
Okay. I'm going to defer agenda item number 9 to allow the committee members time to review their files. And we'll move on to agenda item number 10, consideration and approval of determination of default.
All right, hello, Ms. Jackson. This is Amy Swanholm, litigation manager here presenting this default order for your review. So in August of 2021, a complaint was filed with SOA after an investigation that left the case against Mr. Castro, RCP, unresolved. He did not respond to the complaint, and so on October of 21, a hearing on the merits was convened. Respondent also did not show up for that. After that hearing, an order of default was entered. The respondent had 15 days to respond to that order of default. If he had responded, we would have actually had the hearing, but there was no response to that as well. So because there was no participation in the SOA hearing whatsoever, you do have in front of you now an order of default. We did send notice on January 14th to respondent, to Mr. Castro, and we still have had no response. In your packet, you will see a draft order of default for you to review. If you approve this, you would need a vote to do so. Thank you.
I move we accept the draft order of default.
This is Candy Poole. I second that motion.
It is motion and second that we accept the order of default for applicant Castro. All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay. The motion passed. Is that it for you, Miss Amy?
Yep, that's it. Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you so much. Agenda item number 11, consideration and approval of proposal for decision. There are none. Agenda item number 12, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding modification / termination request.
I don't think there are any. I believe there are none. Yeah,
None.
I checked Laserfish. There are none.
Okay, none. Agenda item number 13, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding agreed orders.
Yeah,
Scott,
Sarah, go ahead.
Do you want to? Okay. Sure. There are 3 orders there in front of you. You see proposed orders. These represent cases that have gone to informal settlement conferences, were heard by panels, made a recommendation, and were agreed to by the respondent. You can look through the orders there, and if you have any questions about them, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we would need your motion to approve.
And you can approve them all at once if you have no problems. Just approve as submitted.
Samuel Brown, I make a motion that we approve those agreed orders as submitted.
Shad Pelazari, second.
It's been motioned and second that we approve the motion to approve the agreed orders as submitted. All in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay. Thank you. Motion carries. Agenda item number 14, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding remedial plans. There are none. Agenda item number 15, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding mediation settlements agreed orders. There are none. Agenda item number 16, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding cease and desist agreed orders. There are none. Agenda item number 17, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding non-protonic orders. There are none. Agenda item number 18, consideration and approval of agreed resolutions. There are none. Agenda item number 19, consideration and approval of consent orders. There are none. Agenda item number 20, report on cease and desist orders approved by executive director. There are none. Agenda item number 21, report on automatic orders / actions.
This is just a report. You don't need a vote on it, but if anyone has any questions, we can answer.
When will we get to go to Austin again and see everyone?
Never.
Face mask, fist pump, whatever.
I think there is some conversation about doing, trying to kind of come up with a way to do a board meeting or something in Austin once we get into the new building and once we kind of get some budget restored. So that's kind of the holdup right now. The boardroom in the hobby building was destroyed in last February's ice storm.
Wow.
And because the building is not going to be standing much longer, they did not spend the money to fix it up. So there will be board meeting rooms and space in the new building and the building next door to it. So, and our space in the new building will also have an ISC room that's big enough to hold an in-person board meeting. So
well, I hope
it is being discussed.
Well, I hope you buy our lawyers a Keurig.
Well, you've used all our tax dollars to build a beautiful building. I think we need to see it, so they'll be good.
It is going to be a very beautiful building. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations. Good job.
We look forward to it.
All right. Agenda item number 22, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding proposed rules to 22 TAC Chapter 186. Respiratory care practitioners. There are none. Agenda item number 23, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding adoption of rules to 22 TAC Chapter 186. Respiratory care practitioners. There are none. Agenda item number 24. We are now open for the forum for public comments.
Okay, you guys are almost to the end of your agenda now. So for the public comment section, This is the time where anyone, member of the public that is participating today, that's or either through Teams or it's called in, can make a comment or statements to the board. If you wish to do so, let us know. You can either raise your hand in Teams or you can just kind of shout out your name and we'll get you set up. You will be limited to 3 minutes. Okay, not hearing anybody speaking up yet. We'll give it a few more seconds just in case someone is accidentally on mute, which we're all prone to do from time to time. So if you're on mute on Teams or on your phone, go ahead and unmute yourself and state your name. Again, we'll get you set up for your 3 minutes if that's what you'd like to do.
Is Dr. Brett still
Okay,
on the?
Ms. Jackson, not hearing anybody. I think that will conclude agenda item number 24.
Is Dr. Brett still on the phone, on our line?
Yes, I am.
Dr. Brett, when you say you need additional experts, are those physicians you need for us to send you?
Well, actually, we do need a few respiratory care practitioners, but also I'll take any physicians you can recommend.
Thank you.
Or can we get your contact information? Can we just get that from the board? I can just email you through our Texas
Well,
Medical.
you can send it to anybody. You can send it to anybody you normally communicate with the board. They can forward it to me. So Laura or Scott or Brent, whoever you got. My email address is the same as everyone else at the board. First name dot last name. So
Yes, sir.
TXUS.
Okay.
Thank
Perfect.
you. I'll wait for them to come rolling in.
I was wondering if I could get some help on number 9, finding my individuals for the D&E, and I can't find them. I got down to number 9 and I looked, and there's files for review. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over the meeting, but is there someone that can help me?
Mine were sent to me in an email.
That's no, that's great
Oh.
because we needed to move back to number 9 anyway. So I think that's perfect timing. If you look in your Laserfish under number 9, it's going to be under a different category. Then you're going to go to, I believe,
It says files for review assigned to
it's
D&E.
right, C.
Okay,
And then you should see your name there under C. Do you see your name?
I do.
And so that's Chris.
Okay.
Do you want to walk them through that? I believe those are the files.
Yeah,
And
and
they-
it is possible that you would have to kind of, you know, like shut that folder and reopen it sometimes to get it to refresh, since they did add this file this morning.
Okay, because everything there's 2019 and
Yeah.
so okay.
Yeah, if you're in the 9C and then you're under your name, if you look under D litigation department dismissals, do you see that folder?
It says none.
And they did, okay, so I think what you may have to do is close Laserfish and reopen it. They probably, because they had to reassign it to you this morning,
Okay.
it may be a matter of having to refresh it.
Okay. Let me go back again. Thank you.
Oh, let me look. Sorry. Is it under? Okay, actually, I'm getting pinged by staff, and it's actually in the 9B folder. Sorry, 9B folder, filed investigations /LOE.
9B follow-up files.
Yeah, no, you're still under C, so you're still under 9C.
Okay.
And then under your name files, you've got one under B.
Okay.
And 2 under C. And that's it for you.
Okay.
And then your sign-off sheet
Okay.
That will match up for that.
So one sign-off sheet per individual?
If you go to your sign-off sheet, you should have all of those on your, I'm looking at the first page of your sign-off sheet, and all 3 of the cases that are assigned to you are on that one page.
Ooh, wow. Was that an email, or was it drilling down?
It was emailed, but you can also find it in Laserfish. It's after you look at under 9D, which is appeals, there's a folder for sign-off sheets, and then your name is in that folder.
Got you. Okay.
And if you click in that folder, you'll kind of see it.
I do. Okay, yes. Wonderful. So print it out, sign it, and get it to you.
Yes, sir. And yeah, and then if you want to discuss any of the 3 cases that are assigned to you, you could do that now. But if you're comfortable with approving them for closure, or if you don't want to approve them for closure, then you would fill out the blue sheet and kind of let us know.
And tell me again who I'm going to email this to.
You can either email it or fax it. Which is easier for you?
Probably email.
Okay. So yes, that email would be, as Dr. Brett was saying, we all kind of have the same second half of that email.
Right.
But you can send it to Taylor.Hinds, HINDS, at tmb.state.tx.us.
Right.
So it'd be Taylor Hinds.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And then once everybody's kind of comfortable with what's on their sign-off sheets and reviewed it, then again, the vote would be to approve agenda item 9C per individual sign-off sheets.
Sure.
Do we need to wait for those to actually reach you guys, correct, before I get the motion?
It would be preferable if we could get them back before you adjourn, but I know because some people will have to print them and scan them and email them back, as long as they have kind of made the decision on how they're going to do them and are comfortable, they don't have any questions, I think we're okay. Mr. Freshour, Ms. Tuttle, everybody okay with that?
Yes, I think.
Okay.
I think that would be fine.
For the public comment, since we're kind of still waiting, can I ask the question, how are we doing with staffing Dr. Carlton, your team? Like, do we have enough people? Because I'm getting a lot of feedback with people feeling like there's a delay to get their RCP. And I know that if you're anything like our organization, we're short-staffed. How are you guys doing with staff?
Ma'am, Grace can give more details if she'd like, specifically in licensure. But we've talked before about the budget cuts that we took last year, the 5% for the biennium, and that did have an effect on our licensure team. And so we do have, I believe it's 4 positions that are currently frozen. Out of licensure and a few others as well. So Grace can talk to it more specifically if she'd like to. But I mean, your question is valid. We have had to hold back up on being able to hire some of these positions. We had a total of 10 that were initially frozen because of the 5% budget cuts.
And Mr. Carlton, I can elaborate. With regards to licensure applicants, no delay has been brought to my attention. We still have our the most efficient way we've ever done the licensing department, in that we have 2 pre-licensure quality review specialists that are constantly reviewing applicants that come out of the screening phase. And if they don't have any single issues, they're processed by those 2 full-time employees, and we license RCPs every single Wednesday. So if there's no issues, they get licensed weekly. If there is an issue, whether that's an active practice issue or however they answer the application questions, then it would have to get assigned to an analyst in order to get more information regarding those issues and go through the proper review channels. So if there is a delay, then it's usually because there's an issue with the file, but we do have a very efficient department, even though, as Mr. Carlson stated, I do have 4 frozen positions, so we could be even more fully staffed. But you know, it is what it is. So we try to make it as efficient as possible with our 2 full-time specialists that are constantly reviewing the ones that have no issues. We do license weekly, and really if an applicant is taking a while, it's because there's issues with their file. And if you ever have any questions about a specific RCP applicant, you can always reach out to me and I can do some research into it to respond back to you. Does that answer your question, or is there any other information that I could provide?
No, that's great. And I'll do a better job of checking my emails to make sure that I'm not delaying. But it was, we were having a big meeting a couple days ago, and we're just, we have over 130 something positions open just with my company. And so it's just a lot of, Dr. Marshall, I need you to put me out some more RTs. I mean, it's just tough right now.
We're
So
working.
anything, you know, Ms. Grace, anything that I can do, you know, if you guys run into issues, if I don't reply quickly to the TMB, if someone will just send me a text and say, hey, look at your email, I'll get on it quicker to do my part to help us be a little bit more.
And you have helped out a lot because per the direction from Mr. Carlton, I have been referring to you as the licensure chairperson files that we're not quite sure if they would meet an active practice consideration. So with your expertise and your experience, you have been reviewing those on your own time and guiding us with, no, this is fine. This person is qualified to be licensed. So we are even being a little more efficient by contacting you directly for your review of their experience and you giving that final authorization so that we can get those people who have been deemed qualified and competent to practice safely licensed. Again, every Wednesday we issue those licenses. So thank you again for your support and taking the time from your busy schedule to review those when we do send those to you, what looks to be on a weekly basis. But we are seeing a lot of the active practice issue as people do decide to come back into the workforce because of the pandemic and the circumstances surrounding that. So unfortunately, as you saw from the applicants today, some of them have been out and there are their own circumstances that would make complying with those active practice requirements outlined in the matrix a little impossible for them. And so they do have that option to appeal and then speak with y'all as that one applicant did today. So we are seeing a little more active practice issues that do require a little more time with the analysts to actually understand what have you been doing to make sure that you're safe and competent to practice.
And you're probably going to see a lot more, Ms. Grace. I'll just be transparent because right now with the market and us being so short, but also the, and that's why I was really trying to pick the people that are trying to come back after 20 years who say they're going to stay in their fields, you know, working in an office. The salaries right now that are being offered from the agencies in the states is making people want to come back. But I do think you guys have done a great job, like the ones that you've sent me, looking at them, because we have to protect our patients and our profession. But the dollars are making people all of a sudden want to come back. So you guys have done a great job. And like I said, anything I can do. And I've been actually working with Dr. Marshall on some. It's just kind of like, you know, this is, you know, one I need his expertise on as well. But you guys have done a really good job helping us protect the profession.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll continue to refer those that board staff doesn't have the authorization to give a final blessing on to get your expertise and your evaluation for, so that we can get those practitioners licensed and helping your profession and the residents of Texas. So thank you again for taking the time to review those one-offs that do come in. We do appreciate that as well.
And I appreciate you too. Thank you. Thanks for being patient with me.
Of course.
So for everyone so Dr. Marshall, are you still reviewing your files?
I'm struggling. I can't print my sheet off. It keeps pulling in the whole Laserfish side piece and shortchanging the form. So I'm working on it. I'll have it and scan it and email it as soon as I can get that to happen. I don't
Sure,
want to hold everyone up if that's okay.
But you've
Sure,
got a
Dr.
chance to
Mitchell,
review
Yes,
them.
and I'm doing the same thing. I'm having some issues with printing and doing my Laserfish, so I may have to call IT and share my screen and have them help me.
Let me kind of jump in here. I think what we can do is if you can see them without doing your sheets, Mr. Marshall and Miss Sanderson, if you want to go down and verbally right now on the record say, I have reviewed the files assigned to me, and and say whether you'll accept them as submitted or accept the recommendation or recommend dismissal. If you want to go down and just say, on the files I have, I'm going to recommend them all for dismissal. If that's your case, we can put it on the record. You can actually do the sheets later. That way we can finish the board's business right now, because otherwise we are going to have to recess until all of this gets resolved, which would be problematic for you all. So if, and let's just do this, Miss Anderson, you can see your files. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes.
So if you have looked at them and say you could approve as noted on the sheets that you've done, I think we can accept that, and then knowing the sheets will actually be submitted later. If anybody has a question, they can say, Miss Sanderson, what was your recommendation on file such and such, since everybody can see what those file numbers are. If there are no questions, I think that motion would be sufficient. Does that make sense, Mia?
Yes.
And the same would apply to you, Mr. Marshall. So if we start doing it that way, I think, Ms. Jackson, the best way is to, for number 9, the sheets that have been submitted, I would do a motion for those. And then for Ms. Sanderson, I would do a separate motion for her sheets, just because you don't have the actual sign-offs yet. Same for Mr. Marshall. So unless Sarah, Yvette, or Sammer or Wendy see something different, I think that would be more than sufficient to take care of this board business while we have a quorum of the members without a recess.
Right. And I just lost access to my Laserfish.
Do you
I
remember
think I'm
what?
having computer problems here.
Okay, but do you remember what your decisions are on your files, ma'am? Then
Yeah, and
then
I think, Scott, in the past, we have just said, for items under 9C, I'll entertain a motion, and they all move to accept the decision, or somebody moves to accept the decisions as noted on the sheets, and then there's a vote on them. And, even if there's a few stragglers that haven't gotten them in our possession yet, the decisions still noted on the sheet are the ones adopted, and the other members don't see those sheets, so they don't know what the other members have elected on those sheets. So I think we've done that in the past, but I will defer to you if you want to do it individually. I think that's fine too. I think we've done it all as one vote before in the past.
Correct. We just en masse, one motion, one vote for all of
okay, then let's just do that as submitted. We don't need to break it out, and we'll go from there on this meeting. And as Mr. Palazzolo has indicated, they're working on doing something that's electronic, that doesn't involve all of this transferring, scanning, faxing, etc., and to do it in a way to be in a single kind of repository or decision-making process. So with that, Ms. Jackson, if you want to, on 9, was it B or C? I apologize. Which one? I would just entertain a motion.
Yes.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the motion to approve that's indicated on files for review for item number 9C.
Second, Marshall?
Well, I need a first. I was. Yeah.
I thought you were making the motion.
No, sir.
This is Candy Poole. I'll make the motion to approve those items on 9C of our agenda.
Second, Marshall.
And just to clarify, that motion would be as indicated on the sign-off sheets
As in,
submitted.
that is correct. Thank you.
It's been motion and second to approve as indicated on the sign-off sheet for the files for review on item number 9C. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay.
Aye.
Nay. Oh, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say anything.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 25, consideration and approval of the September 23rd, 2021 Respiratory Care Board meeting minutes.
I move they be accepted as presented.
A second. Shad Pelazari seconds.
It's been motioned and second that we approve the minutes from the September 23rd, 2021 Respiratory Care Board meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay. Agenda item number 26. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second, Marshall.
It's been motioned and second that the meeting is adjourned at 11:09.